So I'm not the biggest fan of expired goods, and my gut reaction when I come across them is to throw them away immediately. But growing pressure from society to recycle has forced me to rethink our strategy.
How dare you!
And because some people's trash is other people's treasure, this made me think that we could apply this to SEO as well. And that's why today's topic is going to be about finding and reusing expired domains to rank higher on Google, get more traffic, and make more money. But before I get on with the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell if you like my dorky intro and if you want me to do more of them. So let's get started. Before I jump into the tactics and show you exactly how to find expired domains and how you can use them and show you some examples, let's define what an expired domain is, because most people have a different definition for them. You see, when you forget to renew your domain or you don't have the auto-renewal turned on your Namecheap account or whatever registrar you're using, the registrar is kind enough to give you a grace period and let you re-register your domain for between 7 and 30 days depending on the registrar, where nobody else can register it except of you. When you do that, the domain does not drop. But if you fail to do that, then the domain becomes expired. From that point on, most registrars have an auction system where they list all the expired domains for people like you and I to purchase them and then use them for their SEO benefits. But if nobody buys them, then the domain drops. And when a domain drops, it's unavailable for a few weeks, and after that, it becomes available for registration from any registrar on the internet. And what is interesting about these expired domains is that they have been a business before, they have been a website, and as such, they have been collecting backlinks. And these backlinks are extremely valuable if you're trying to do SEO. And very often the price you pay for these expired domains is a lot lower than if you were trying to buy the same links from, say, a link broker. And that's where the value is for expired domains. Now, when you ask Google directly how they treat expired domains in terms of SEO and ranking, they have a bit of an iffy answer here. The last time the subject was brought up was during a Webmasters Q&A to John Mueller in November 2020, where a webmaster asked, "Does Google reset the links of expired domains?" And his answer in a nutshell was that because a lot of expired domains are happening when people are like selling a business or changing hand, and you would want to keep the value of these links, it's very hard for Google to determine whether people are doing this for pure SEO reasons or they're doing it because the business is changing hand and someone purchased it in a legitimate way. And as a result, it would be very difficult for them to reset the link profiles without triggering a lot of false positives. He did mention, however, that if you were picking up a domain and then built something completely different from what the original site was on that domain, Google was pretty good at dealing with it and would probably reset the link profile. So that means you probably would not get any kind of boost in rankings or anything like that. Still, that leaves the opportunity for SEO people to pick up domains that are relevant to the projects they're building and actually get a boost in rankings, because Google is actually conserving the link profile and these are going to be helping you do better on search. So how can you use these expired domains to boost your rankings? Well, there's 3 commonly accepted ways to use expired domains, and here they are. The first and most obvious one is to build a website on the expired domain that you just purchased. That's probably the most straightforward way to use an expired domain for people who don't have a website yet. And that's what we did on the website bomish.com. When I reviewed the Alpha Investors service, they did buy an expired domain for me, and we built the site on that. It was DR17 when we purchased it, which was not crazy, but it had some pretty good links from sites like Apartment Therapy, countryliving.com, or remodelista.com. That gave the site a base of really relevant links that helped it do quite well, quite quickly, in the home improvement niche. And so when I saw it ranked really quickly for keywords like how to install a urinal or how big is a bathroom, I was not that surprised given that background. If we had started the same site on a brand new domain, it would probably have taken many more months to actually start showing up on page 1 of Google, and we would probably never have done it without doing some link building, which is the case on Bomish. We didn't build any link after we got the site. And to this day, when we post new content on that site, I see it pick up pretty quickly and rank pretty fast, which again, even if we started the site like a year or 2 ago, it would take a little bit longer than it does on that expired domain. And that's really the benefit of it. The second use you can make of an expired domain is to build a private blog network. Now, I'm not a huge fan of this approach, but you can't deny that it works. If you don't know what it is, a private blog network is the idea of building a network of blogs that you can use to, boost any page that you need in the niche. So you just add a new page on that site and you link to a page of a site that you're monetizing. When it needs links to rank higher, you rank higher and you make money. It's kind of the same concept of most of these Dear Sir emails that are flooding your inbox, I'm sure, trying to sell your link on pretty crappy looking sites. Most of these sites are actually expired domains. The difference between a private blog network and this is that you don't share your private blog network, so you're a lot less likely to get in trouble with Google like you would be if you were buying links from George here. And finally, the last use you can make of an expired domain is to redirect it to your website. In principle, it sounds great, and it's a lot less obvious than building a PBN, for example. Plus, there are many examples in the industry of websites being bought and redirected to the site that bought them and, boosting the traffic like crazy. For example, Healthline.com purchased AuthorityNutrition.com to start their nutrition category, and now that category is worth 25% of the traffic of Healthline. I've actually broken down that case study on our newsletter, and if you don't want to miss the next case studies, make sure you subscribe on authorityhacker.com/subscribe. But we can also think of the Wirecutter that was purchased by the New York Times for $30 million and is now redirected to the New York Times, and again drives a lot of traffic to that website. So in both cases, the traffic flew over nicely, but in my experience, if you just buy an expired domain and do a dirty wildcard redirect to your homepage, it doesn't always go that way. If you want to get some decent traffic gain from expired domains purchases, you often need to replicate the content, go and get it on like archive.org or something, and do redirects from the old URL to the similar page on your domain, and then you might get some proper boost in traffic, but it does take quite a bit of work. And that's basically the 3 ways you can use an expired domain to boost your traffic on Google. But I know what you're going to be asking me next. How do I get these quality expired domains so I can do all the stuff you just talked about? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now. The first and most obvious place where you can get an expired domain is on the registrars' auction places themselves. The largest and most popular one is actually Godaddy's, and you will probably be surprised to learn that you actually need to pay to be able to bid on domains there. It's not very expensive though, it's about $5 a year, so it's really not a big expense if you're about to drop some cash on a domain anyway, but I thought you'd want to know. The problem with Godaddy's auction, like pretty much most of Godaddy, is that the interface is freaking terrible. All the data they give you is the domain name, the number of bids, the traffic number that is pretty much as good as useless here, an estimated value that's also useless, and the current bid price of the domain. The only interesting metric here is the number of bids, because SEOs are usually pretty good at finding quality domains, and there's usually a bit of a bid war, so if you sort by number of bids, you will find the strongest domains in terms of SEO on Godaddy's auction. The problem with this approach is you won't necessarily find the best deals because these are the most bid on domains. So if you go with this approach, be ready to spend a lot of time copy and pasting random domains into Ahrefs or SEMrush or whatever tool you use to analyze domains, because you won't get much information from Godaddy. Or you could use the next solution I'm about to share with you, and that is Spamzilla. Spamzilla certainly nailed their branding, but what they nailed even more is the usability of the tool, because it allows you to find expired domain names across multiple marketplaces, and it allows you to filter them for a bunch of very useful SEO metrics that saves you so much time. And that time saving is totally worth the $37 per month they're asking, in my opinion, if you want to get some good expired domains, not overpay for them, and not spend hours and hours just copy pasting from the Godaddy auction place. When you look at the filtering options they're giving you, you're going to be super happy, because they allow you to filter by top level domains, so if you want a .com, a .net or something like this, all the majestic metrics including CF and TF, Ahrefs metrics including DR, linking root domains, traffic, etc., all the Moz metrics, all the SEMrush metrics, but also when the auction ends, the domain language, so if you want an English domain, a Spanish domain or something like this. And they also build their own Spamzilla metrics that allow you to filter out spam domains, that allow you to see how long a domain has been parked, for example, its drop date, and more. And it doesn't just do that on Godaddy, it does it on a bunch of smaller registrars like Snapname, Namejet, or Dynadot. So in case you didn't pick it up from my tone of voice yet, this is my favorite way of finding expired domains. Usually what I do is I set the filters to Ahrefs 25 plus, .com and .net domains in English, and then a Spamzilla score of less than 25, and then I just browse through what I get here. And even when you start browsing, you don't need to put the domain right away into Ahrefs, you get a bunch of useful data inside the Spamzilla interface. You can see the archive.org history of the site, so you can see where it used to be and how close it is to what you might be building on it. You can see the backlinks, the anchor text, you can see if it's been redirected. You can see all the Ahrefs metric, the drop history, and whether the site is still indexed. And that's usually enough data for me to look at and then decide if I want to investigate it further inside Ahrefs, where I look at the top pages, for example, or how I'm going to be redirecting things if I buy that domain, etc. Now, if you don't want to do all that work and you don't have the time to do that, you just want to be presented with high quality domains that you can just purchase right away and build a site on, there is also premium marketplaces that do that for you, but you should be ready to pay the price. Very often I was able to pick up DR 30 to 35, 40 domains for like $500 to $1,000 on Godaddy Auctions, for example, The same kind of domains on these premium marketplaces sell for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 quite often. So if you're okay with paying the premium to save the time, then go ahead. Otherwise, just go with Spamzilla. And if you're okay with paying that premium, I recommend you check Odys.global and juicemarket.com. Both of these are run by legitimate companies that will not take your money and run away, and they do a pretty good job at curating high quality domains that you can just browse through a nice and clean interface and purchase right away. They also give you a bunch of metrics within their interface, so if you want to see the DR, some of the best links, etc., you will find this on the websites just before your purchase, so it's really, really nice as an experience, but obviously you're paying the price for it. And now that I've shown you all the ways you can purchase expired domains, I'm pretty sure I know what your next question is going to be. What metrics should I be looking for in the expired domains I'm looking to buy? How do I make sure I buy the right one? You're asking a lot of questions, but let's go. The first thing you want to think about when you pick up an expired domain is relevancy. I would rather a relevant domain to the project I'm about to buy that is DR15, for example, than a more irrelevant domain that is DR40. I mean, if you look at these questions asked to John Mueller, it's very likely that Google looks at it that way as well, and the further away you go from the original site, the less power the links that you have built in on that domain will have on your ranking. So really, relevancy is my number one factor. The second thing I'm looking at when I'm purchasing an expired domain is the links they have, and not the DR, not the DA, not any of the metrics you will see on these SEO tools, because these are easy to fake with really, really shit links that will not help you rank higher on Google. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going into the backlink report, I'm looking at individual links, and I'm trying to find links that would be very hard to build with traditional link building methods, so usually like skyscraper or guest posting, that kind of stuff. For example, when we got bomish.com, I was very excited to see that apartmenttherapy.com link because I knew I couldn't just outreach to them and ask for a guest post, and that is one of the strongest and most authoritative sites in the industry, so I was really, really excited to start a site with that link already. And finally, the third thing I'm looking at is the organic traffic on Ahrefs. What I'm looking for mostly is traces of penalties or core updates, that kind of stuff. If the site has had a major drop that has seen no recovery, I would probably tend to avoid that domain, even if it's quite likely that if you build a new site on it, it won't stay. I'm still a little bit careful here. And that's basically all I had to share with you on expired domains and how to use them to boost your SEO effort. Now, from our experience, building sites on these domains makes them rank significantly faster. It's really nice to skip that like first year of shitty rankings and get directly into business and be able to show up on Google after just a few weeks or months. The main problem is that usually these expired domains are not as well branded as if you had bought a fresh domain. And my solution to that is to actually run the site on the expired domain for maybe a year or two and establish yourself, build some links and show some life to your site. And after a year or two, just rebrand to the .com domain that you wanted to build your site on initially, do all the proper redirects, go with Webmasters Console and tell Google you've changed the address the same way a lot of companies rebrand, and you should be able to carry on with your rankings, get a faster start with an expired domain, and 1 or 2 years down the line, get the perfect branding that you dreamed of. If you have any question about drop domains, I'm going to spend some time in the comment section below, so drop me your questions. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it, subscribe, and ring the bell. And finally, if you want this kind of stuff before it gets on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, because I have a lot less time to do videos than I have to write newsletters. These things tend to come a lot faster to our subscribers, so go on authorityhacker.com/subscribe to subscribe to a newsletter. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.